Hello, everyone. I hope you are well and I hope you enjoy the summer. We still need to figure out if there is summer or spring here in Oslo, but hopefully it will get better. For today, I'm going to introduce you to a different perspective, as always, a trauma informed perspective around the topic of personal or inner power. And I suppose this is something that many people are interested in. And I know there is a lot written, many books in personal development, the spiritual development areas that speak about this and how you can actually achieve a state where you feel empowered and you are fully inhabiting yourself as um, a being that knows and is fully connected with this inner power. And I also see many offerings sometimes speaking about this and proposing all sorts of tools and exercises to get into this state. And for today, I just wish to bring my reflections. Also because I had recently a client. I'm not going to enter into details because I have to preserve the confidentiality. But she brought in her intention that she worked with this method I use of the identity-oriented psychotrauma therapy, an intention that she formulated. I want to connect with my inner power. And what the intention brought up was a lot of suppressed emotions, a lot of shame, anger, deep sadness because of several traumatic events from her childhood involving her family, involving the father and the mother figures, and also other members of the family around her, since she was really a child, very small one. And it is true that in one session we don't fully resolve the big topic of power, of being empowered, but it opens. What happened here is that it opened a process for her where she can start to release first what was there stuck in her body and that prevented her to fully inhabit her body with all this awareness about her own power, but also not only release, but also to create space for a different state, a different understanding of herself, of how all these events influenced her in her upbringing and becoming an adult. And then start to explore more other ways to get really empowered. And one observation I wish to make that I think it's quite relevant, and it's relevant not only for women but also for men, is that never expect or never trust those that will claim that they can empower you, because that cannot happen. It's like me promising you that after one session of therapy or healing, you will achieve a holy state and go to nirvana, for example, or something like that, or that you will resolve all of issues at once, or that you can just emigrate on a different planet and have a beautiful, fulfilled life there. So if any workshop or retreat or a person or therapist or space holder promises you to empower you and to achieve your goals and to really get in your full steam energy of accomplishment, then know that that is just a mirage. It's an illusion that they are selling to you. And it's possible that some people are well intended, but they probably don't have yet their own full understanding and ability to connect with their own power if they promise you something that is not possible or is not even true. So let's reflect together a little bit on what it means to have personal power or to be empowered, because there is something that I sometimes feel when I see what's happening in this personal and spiritual development arena. There is this feeling I have that there is a lot of confusion and a lot of people who are not still there in that state of full empowerment. They think they can offer that like a kind of miraculous gift or cure or whatever. And from my perspective, after working many years with people and noticing their processes and their inner landscape, mapping their trauma biography, also from my own perspective as client that worked a lot, many hours on myself, I can tell you that there is no real power over yourself if you don't fully or at least deeply know yourself. When I'm referring to knowing yourself, I just want to give you this mythological reference of Oraculo from Delphi, the oracle from Delphi. And this is a space temple that you can actually still visit in Crete or in some island nearby in the Mediterranean. It's a myth that belongs to the mythological stories and places of ancient Greece. And it is related also with the myth of Mnemosyne, that was the goddess of dreams, that would inhabit this temple and offering those who will visit the temple oracular information, because she was a priestess and an oracle, knowing, let's call it the future or important things that those people were searching for. And at the entrance of this oracle of Delphi, of this temple, there is a very short sentence that in ancient Greek is translated as know thyself, know yourself. And it's mostly an invitation, because in reality, all our life, or our processes and events that we need to go through in life serve to this only purpose, to know ourselves, to know who we are, and also to become someone that has this power of our own life and can go into life able to conquer any difficulty and to manifest own dreams, wishes, projects, and so on. But to be able to achieve this state of really a fully and embodied state of power, of inner power, it means that you also acquire knowledge. And it's not about acquiring knowledge like you go to school and you learn mathematics and languages and about nature and other sciences. It is an experiential knowledge about who you truly are, how your past shaped you, and how you can move forward with a newly acquired awareness of your power, of what drives you in this life, of what makes you happy, of what are your skills and gifts and abilities. So you can actually create the life of your dreams. And all this journey, all these processes, most of them have to deal, and this, even for those who don't know this, know that in most of these journeys inside yourself to know yourself, you will always deal with your shadow parts or the traumatized parts of you, and with those survival strategies that you created to be able to cope with the traumatic events of your life. You cannot escape that, because that is part of your biography as a human being, and it's part of your journey. And as I always say in all my interventions, hoping that you can listen and understand this is true. And it's not only me that is saying this, there are many experts. We live in a society, and we have lived in a civilization that has been highly traumatized for centuries. And we develop common and collective strategies to cope with all this trauma. We normalize trauma. So we need to become aware that if this happened, that there should be also possible to get out of these strategies by working with those traumas that really impacted us. By chance, I was listening today to a lady who posted a short video somewhere on a social platform speaking about the myth, the mythology, and the gods. And she was referring to antiquity gods of the Roman and Greek empires, with Zeus and other gods. And she was saying that in all these mythologies, all these stories, they all include rape as a normalized situation that was always happening between gods and goddesses. And that even the victims of the rape would actually, like it happened with the Medusa, for example, or I don't know if also happened, for example, to Persephone, that then had to go underworld. I don't remember fully now all the stories, but she was giving some examples about this rape thinking or normalization in antiquity, and how this actually influenced the present day culture, where we observe all these phenomena, where there were recently also other stories about a rape academy online that was shut down once it was reported by newspapers, or this phenomena of social influencers like Andrew Tate and his brother, who also promote misogyny and rape as a normal way to gain power over another person. In this case, teaching younger boys that this is normal to be abusive with women and then to rape them, just to show the male power and influence and so on. So those are some examples of how much the trauma, in this case will be sexual traumatization, is normalized. Now, often it happens that according the trauma biography method of this method I mentioned, IOPT method, promoted by Franz Rupert, that people, and in this case, most of them are women, because women are also considered somehow more vulnerable as a gender too. They are sexually traumatized because they've been already traumatized in different ways. So there is trauma of identity and love, which are the first two layers or stages of traumatization. And then the third layer comes because these functions of the I and want in that person have been damaged by trauma. And this traumatization, often it happens in the family of origin. So we don't have to go outside of the family to create already or to have already a trauma biography. Most of the trauma happens in the origin family, and it starts with the mother, because we inhabit her womb from conception to the birth along the gestation period. And then the first years of life can sometimes be complicated, and so on. Therefore, my invitation is, do you really want to manifest and to know deeply your power? Then you have to start to know your trauma biography. And it's also very often, for example, that sexual traumatization happens from the providers of the family. There are many cases of abuses from the father or grandfather in that family, or even from the uncle, or even siblings if there is age difference, and so on. So you already, if you have all these stages of traumatization, go into the world and you grow into adulthood with a heavy baggage inside you. And when I say inside you, I don't refer to you personally, but in general, to any person who can undergo this traumatization or this level of traumatization. What this baggage means a lot of accumulated heavy emotions of shame, grief, anger, that often they are not expressed because we are also taught at the same time to hide them. Often we are ashamed to speak about what happened to us, and then we are often even obliged, in certain societies or families that are more conservative and strict. Those families will have their own rules too. If you are a woman, and you are abused, then you don't speak about it, and you shut down and you just behave and you pretend nothing happened, right? And things like that. So all these emotions, they create a kind of inner luggage that person carries over time and continues to accumulate. But what this inner luggage does to the personal power is that creates contraction. Like the body, when it becomes so heavy of suppressed emotions and doesn't want to recognize those memories of trauma, therefore often it shuts down to protect, is a protective mechanism against that pain, the big pain that a person can feel when the trauma happens. Then that luggage creates contraction, but also disconnection. So then the addictions come. Then all sorts of illusions about how to relate with other people, what love means, even distorted visions of love as being, including abuse, as normal, and so on. There are so many different mechanisms of survival. They start to develop. And for a while, they can work and they can protect to a certain extent, but they heavily disconnect us from our inner power. And it often happens that people who have also been abused, for example, sexually, they not only don't know who they are, because they will think many will have this idea that they deserve to be punished for something they made. Others start to believe in past lives where something happened and then you bring karma into this life and you have to pay for it, and so on. So these are all strategies that can help you to a certain extent to give a certain value or meaning to why the incident happened, to why you have been a victim. But in reality, they just work for a while, because at a certain point, the body can also say, stop, I'm tired. I'm tired of this bullshit. I'm tired of the ways you just try to run away from me, from what you feel, from what happened to you, and you pretend that everything is okay. There is no personal power if you are still disconnecting any suppression mode, and if you are just trying to elude yourself with all sorts of strategies. And you can go to, I don't know how many workshops, retreats, and courses or trainings to teach you something about empowerment, But as long as you didn't really do that root work to look into the root cause of your inner imbalance, of your struggle, of your invisible luggage that you carry, you don't get the real result. You don't get this real felt embodied sense of empowerment. You will just place another facade, a polished one. It's very beautiful to speak about empowerment, but you need to live it. And then you have to go back to that oracle from Delphi and ask the oracle, who am I? I need and I want to know myself first. So then I really feel how is to be in power, how is to be connected with that inner power. So reflect on these words of mine, because they really come from experience, from many stories and from many biographies I mapped and I worked with to support those people to advance on their path and to get back to themselves, to reconnect with this power I'm speaking about. Know thyself. That is the invitation. Start to go deeper. And don't be afraid to go there. I know sometimes, or most of the times, will be difficult to create this bridge with the past. But if you don't do it now, with time it becomes even more difficult, more heavier. And younger you are in starting to work with your traumas, it's better for you and also for your children, for the legacy you want to build up. Because personal power or inner power also means to be able to guide others further, independently if they are your children or grandchildren, or students if you will have, or co-workers and so on. But first, get to know yourself. First, connect with yourself in those layers that have been difficult, but you are still carry their energies, the unresolved energy. Because what happens when you start to work with traumas, and this is also based on my observation, or what happens especially in the body of persons, even during the sessions, I often notice a smile and a state of more expansion. Often when the energy is released, the energy of the past, I call it, because it's the energy of trauma, that energy of contraction or of suppression, when this is relieved, then you are able to breathe in a different way. You really feel that you connect with something that belongs to you, and you are actually able to get out of the identification of other people that build up your personality and identity. And you open to this curiosity about, oh, now I see it's possible to live, to breathe, to just be in a different energy with a different emotion that is not so heavy and not so difficult to carry. And it's very rewarding for me as a therapist or as a guide to see this happening, because I know it's possible. And it almost sometimes feels like miraculous, especially if you suppressed those energies, those emotions for so long. And it also happens quite often that when people still continue to ignore the signals that the body gives, that the body gets sick, and then they have to cope with chronic pain. They have to cope with even all these modern diseases of our times, that some of them we still think they are incurable. In my opinion, every disease of symptom can be reversed, but we need to start to pay attention to it and to do something different than what we were doing before. Yeah, it all goes to the past. No matter how much we want to live in the present and the future, to really inhabit ourselves and our personal power, we need to go to the past and do something about it, especially if it is a difficult past. Because then a window or a door of opportunities open and you find a different state, a different energy and a different emotion and much more expansion. And is where the real power can also be expressed into this world. So that is my invitation for you today. Go back to the words of the Temple of Oracle of Delphi, know thyself, and explore. And I can be your guide on this path, or you can find someone else. I have many different tools I work with because I also have my spiritual practice into shamanic words and philosophy. But I also work with the goddess energy. And I like to learn about goddess archetype and mythology. And I recognize that the mythology has been written by people, by men and women, maybe mostly men at the time, who were human, and they carry their own trauma biography into the mythology. So when we read that mythology, we have to be aware that it's also about us as human, but also divine beings. That was my intervention today. You are always powerful being, and you are more powerful when you start to understand that there is a way to get out of the survival mode. There is a way to get out of the illusions, of the addictions, of all these survival strategies that you created in life to cope with difficult parts inside you. And is where their personal power can be found too, in the way you are able to transform the past so the present is not so burdened and heavy anymore, and then you recreate your future with much more awareness and presence. Thank you for listening. See you next. Don't forget to subscribe, share and like if you enjoy this intervention. Bye-bye.